Okay. Well, I might make a start if anybody else comes into the room. Okay, so we were going to have a couple of our aquatic our aquatic officer and our environmental education officer are coming to a bit of a talk on how you can be a citizen science and what things you can do in your own backyard to, I guess, encourage and also assist, like encourage wildlife into your yard and assist any of the programs that we have to protect our wildlife and flora and fauna and pretty much the entire environment. So how can you become a citizen scientist? You can get out into the nature. So there's been a growing interest in opportunities for people to get out and become involved in citizen science over the past few years. There's many reasons to do it. It is getting out into nature and enjoying the sunshine. And after lockdown, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are enjoying getting out and about more so than they were able to over the past few months. You can learn about things in your backyard, as Tracy said. Keep an eye on your locals, know who's around and what animals that you do have in your environment that you may be able to assist in maintaining population sizes, and also you can add habitat for them, knowing what you've got there. The collection of the data that you can collect through various platforms, which I'll show you shortly, can also contribute quite widely to research and allowing those in the areas of conservation to understand exactly what populations are still around. After the 2019 fires, there was quite a few populations of various wildlife and vegetation communities that have been impacted. So it's been a good opportunity to get people involved, but also have a wider spread across a large area to get that data to be able to contribute to the research. And it's fun. I mean, I'm a wildlife ecologist, as I said in a previous life. That was what my job was. I love getting out into the sunshine and having a bit of a bash around in the bush to see what's out there. There's a lot in our backyard that we do take for granted, and it's good to get out there and see what we can find. And of course, my phone's just rung. It never rings. They can call back. So the platforms, as I said, we've got a few platforms that are available. iNaturalist seems to be the one that everyone is using at the moment. I am actually an iNaturalist citizen scientist myself. I have a profile on that. So the way that this works is you find your organism, you take a photo of it, you can share it with people, and it then links into the databases that will allow you to identify the areas where things have been located. Okay, sorry for that. Where was I? Okay, so and you also can contribute to the Atlas of Living Australia, which is developed, I think, through the Museum of Australia, Australian Museum. So tips for good observation. So this is Alice. This is our aquatic officer. She was going to be doing the presentation, but unfortunately she was pulled aside. She had other commitments that came up. So get your photos in sharp focus. This gives you a good opportunity to be able to have this identified. And the iNaturalist program is also another really good place to identify organisms yourself. There'll be a lot of photos on there that you can then have a look at, and you can try and decide whether or not that's exactly what it is. And because you're working with other people and quite a few very experienced people within the flora and fauna identification areas, they'll be able to give you a positive identification as to what it is that you've actually located. Include multiple angles. If it's a flowering plant or I mean, gum trees are often very difficult to identify. The capsules and things of gum trees are very hard to get hold of. But if a leaf or a flower of a smaller plant or a shrub, any of those identifying features that you may be able to capture with animals also, close-ups, colours of their fur, length of tail and things like that are all really good ways of being able to identify what it is that you've actually found. So if you can capture these without touching the animals, obviously we don't want to be going and capturing animals and taking photographs to get good shots. We just want to leave them in their natural environment. So with birds, often the colouring of their feather and the time of the year also can indicate as to whether or not it's a male or a female in breeding plumage or otherwise. So once you've taken all of these, you can upload them into the iNaturalist platform, which is available online. You can find it at iNaturalist.org, I think it is. The details are in the end of the presentation. And there are a few projects that you can actually get involved in. So the Environment Recovery Project is one that is being run since the bushfires. It allows people to take photographs and monitor the recovery stages of the environment and what is flowering and what isn't present anymore within these areas that were severely burnt and very badly damaged. Another thing with the photography, you can actually geo-tag it so that it will show exactly where you are located within your area, or you can put it under a geo-privacy. So if you're taking photographs from your backyard, for instance, that you don't want necessarily to be publicised across the entire platform, it gives you a bit of privacy there. It can give you an area within, a suburb sort of thing, so that it is still relevant for the data collection. One of the projects that Alice is currently running at the moment is the Crayfish in the Blue Mountains count. So I will run through a YouTube clip here that she's provided, which gives you a bit of an indication of what the program's all about and how you can get involved. And I hope the sound works. Try that again.
Many people love to see the beautiful, brightly coloured crayfish in our Blue Mountain streams, but few people know how long-lived they are or how important they are for the health of the streams. People see the crayfish in our streams and call them yabbies. Yabbies actually refers to a different species and is actually invasive in the Blue Mountains. The two species that are native are what's called spiny crayfish. So especially on the claw, you'll see some spines on the native species. A yabby is totally smooth. They're different to yabbies because they grow much more slowly and live for much longer, and only 1 in 1,000 will survive until maturity.
In the Blue Mountains, crayfish are threatened in a number of ways. First up, we have stormwater. Stormwater carries pollutants, so anything that's on the ground in the urban areas will be picked up and washed into the creeks with stormwater. Pesticides are a particular danger, as we saw at Jamison Creek in 2012 when at least 1,000 giant spiny crayfish were killed overnight. We quite often find illegal traps that people have put in the waterways to try and catch crayfish. Any kind of fixed trap is illegal in the Blue Mountains. Platypus, turtles, lizards, snakes, water rats, all of these amazing native animals can be killed by people putting traps into the water in an attempt to catch crayfish.
Crayfish can be found in pretty much every creek and stream in the Blue Mountains that has flowing water in it. Each year the females they release young into the creek. And it's these young which are the food source for the whole creek, for everything in the catchment for the whole year. These crayfish are a lobster size, and in the old days people used to eat them. But really these days there's no reason for someone to take out an animal that's been there for 30 years in that creek. This is an animal that you can take your children down to see, and their children can come down and see the same animal in that creek, in that spot. People see a dead crayfish, they should report it. If they see a live crayfish, they should report it. And bottom line, just don't take any crayfish out of our creeks.
Help us to help the crayfish and get involved with Blue Mountains Crayfish Count.
Please leave crayfish in their creeks, it's the best place for them. If you'd like to help us help crayfish, get involved in the Blue Mountains Crayfish Count.
Okay, so as you can see there, that's just one of the programs or the projects that are running on the iNaturalist. There's other citizen science platforms that you can use. Frog ID is a really good one that's developed by Australian Museum, and that's also got a lot of call sort of voice or frog call identifications on there, because obviously you can quite often hear the frog but you can't see the frog. So it will also help you identify exactly what sort of frogs it is that you have in your environment, or what you have around in your backyard. One of the most common ones we get in the Blue Mountains is probably the Perrin's tree frog. That one can be heard and seen quite frequently. They're very social little critters, and they tend to be out there and about. But there are plenty of other species of frogs in the Blue Mountains and surrounding areas. And that's a really good one to be able to identify what it is that you're looking at, but you can also keep your own records of what you've found around. The National Water Bug Blitz, this one I haven't had a great deal to do with. So, okay, so the National Water Bug Blitz is a nationwide waterway monitoring event. Each year it calls people to become citizen scientists and investigate how healthy their waterways are and the wetlands that are around them by exploring what sort of water bugs you have in the area. Even a local or a home pond will have water bugs. I've got quite a few in mine, and I like to sit of a night and watch them in the light through the water to see what's available in there, and that's a really good sign of a healthy waterway. We've got questions here. I can take questions on notice if I'm not able to actually answer them. In the resources section, which I've got coming up, there is a lot of other projects that are available to participate in as part of a citizen scientist. There are other organisations. BirdLife Australia has Twitcher sort of counts and bird counts, birds in backyards. They have quite a few different activities that we can become involved in to help monitor the populations and the existences of different species within our backyards, basically. It's a good way to also, I guess, tie all of what we've done today into the volunteering side of things. As I think it was Liz from the Red Cross said, a lot of the presenters and people that are involved in this resilience building and preparedness sort of things, whether it be preparing the environment or preparing ourselves and our communities in other areas, we are volunteers, and it's a good way to network, and that also assists with our mental well-being, to be able to get out and enjoy the company of others that have similar, I guess, activities and interests. So if there's any questions, I'll stop sharing this now. But yeah, feel free to put any questions into the chat box and I will do my best to answer them. If there's anything that I can't answer, I will take it on notice and give that to our environmental education and aquatics officer for advice. No questions? Okie dokie then. Well, I will see all of you in the next session for the resources. I'll give you a bit of a run through what it is that we're working on at the moment in terms of resources and how we can provide that one-stop shop access to critical information that we need, and where the best places are to find that information. So I will meet you across in the next session. Thank you very much.